Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We visit with my friend Christopher Ames, and TJ, as I call him, is out of Calgary, Alberta, or near there, and he lives close to the Canadian Rockies. And today we're going to talk about prepping for the 2019 hunting season. TJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bruce, again for having me. It's been an honor again to once again sit down and chat with you for a little bit about something that we're both very, very passionate with. So thanks again for having me on this. Yeah, like Bruce kind of said, for everybody that's listening right now, the 2019 season is coming up. And whether you're a passionate deer hunter or this is your first time going out, it's really important that you really start prepping for the season now. I know out here in Alberta, tag draws are going in this week. So it's right around the corner, even though fall seems so far away.
You know, you think about that. In the States here, a lot of tags have already been drawn, so guys know what they're going to get. Then Colorado, where I live, we have leftover tags or as well as over-the-counter tags. And one thing I want to tell everybody, in this show will air sometime in July, August, probably sometime in that time frame, is that if you ever thought about hunting the Rockies, this is the year to do it. Because down here in the U.S., we've had more moisture than ever. And I've got buddies in Arizona that said, Bruce, you've got to come hunt mule deer in January. It's going to be January during the rut in Arizona, over-the-counter tag. I'll be looking for 200-inch deer. Absolutely no question about it. Then I've got a buddy in Utah, and he had a 350 bull on his hit list last year, didn't get him, and he thinks he's going to be pushing 400.
Oh, I believe it. Even up here in Canada, so we've seen a lot of moisture lately as well. Not so much currently. We're dealing with a lot of wildfires, the Alberta summer, as we call it. But as of right now and past season, we had a lot of moisture, and we've been very fortunate over the past 2 winters. They've been very wet and very heavy snowfalls. So we've seen a lot of these big boomer bucks that are starting to come out, and even freezer fillers that aren't quite maybe wall hangers or big does that are coming out as well. So now, like you said, it is the time to get out, and it is the time to experience the mountains and hopefully fill your tags.
What's your advice to folks that's saying, okay, I'm going to get a cow tag for elk or a bull tag or whatever I can get? How do these deer hunters that are listening to the show, what do they need to do to get into the mountains?
The first thing when it comes to it is elk hunting. It is extremely physical. So anytime that you start looking at animals such as an elk, if you start looking at doing cross-range shooting when you're looking at bighorn sheep or mountain goats or something like that, the thing you got to factor in is to start getting in shape now. Anytime you start looking at elevation gains, whether it is a mountain or a hillier area, your legs not only have to be prepared to pull you into that situation, but pull the animal that you harvest out of that situation. So I would highly recommend starting, for me, when I start getting ready for elk or sheep season, is I'll go to the gym and I'll go on a stair climber, and I will just crank that thing up and throw my 40-pound or a 40-liter bag on and fill that thing up with weights and just start walking and just do a treadmill at a high incline, do the stair climber at a deep incline. That not only will help out with your core stability, which you definitely need when you're going into a rockier terrain or an elevated terrain, but it'll also help with your muscular endurance. It'll help with your leg strength. It'll help really prepare you not only to be in the area and in the zone, but also after you take the animal as well. So fitness is the outdoorsman's number one weapon. And it doesn't matter if you fish, if you hunt, if you camp, if you hike. Everybody needs a good level of fitness to go out, experience your own backyard or somebody else's backyard. So definitely look at getting in shape now.
Want to become a smarter deer hunter? Know when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Well, Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created to do exactly that, because many people have told me they struggle with spending all days in the wood and never seeing a deer. only shooting does and young deer, leaving the woods empty-handed way too many times. Found Mr. Wonderful, but just couldn't get on him. Having difficult finding a place to hunt. Recognizing possible mistakes you're making every year. Having tried and failed to find qualified mentors who deliver results. If you had these frustrations or struggles, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com, and there you'll find a 13-module course to help you solve these problems. Again, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com and find some answers.
How many days is a typical elk hunt for you or a non-resident coming into the Rockies?
For me, whenever I go out for an elk hunt, I usually book off about a week. If I got a big bull, I want to make sure that I take a bull tag. If I got a cow, I'll make sure I'll get a cow. But for me, I'll usually spend a week, and it's not just for me elk hunting. I'll go out there and I'll just prepare for next season as well. So I won't take my shot until day 4, day 5, but I'll go out there and I'll really watch the migratory periods. I'd really watch where they're bedding down. I'll really watch how big the herds are that season as opposed to the season prior or the season before that. It really all depends on when my tag was drawn. So for me, I don't only go out there for the hunt, I go out there to prepare for the following year as well. So for me, I'll usually look at about a week. I'll go out into the woods and really do my research.
So you're doing the research, you're doing scouting for the next year, if I heard you correctly. Then towards the end of your hunt, that's when you zero in, take your animal, and get the heck out of there.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, like I'll really watch what their patterns, and that really goes for any animal. I mean, whitetails and muleys, it'll be a day or two hunt. I'll go out there in the morning, see what I could do, and then go back home at night or stay out there for the night and try again the following day. But when it comes to the mountains, so when I'm dealing with sheep, when I'm dealing with moose, when I'm going for bear, elk, whenever I'm really dealing with some of these elevated location animals, I'll usually take a little bit longer and really make sure that I'm able to get a proper shot off. Your ballistics are a little bit different when you're dealing with the mountains, so you got to factor in with some of the range and wind velocity and bullet drop you're dealing with. If you're going with a long gun, same deal with the bow. You got to factor in the different wind pressures, the different air pressures. So for me, I really make sure that when I go out there, I do it right, and I really watch what the animal is going to tell me, because then I'm able to read that animal and make sure that I make the most humane shot as well as a good shot given the trend that they're kind of showing me.
Now, when you do put an elk down, how long is your pack out?
Really all depends on what zone I'm in. What I'll kind of do is I'll quarter the animal out. Usually close enough to camp, I'll have a quad or I'll have something along those lines to really help rip down into my truck. But I'll quarter the animal out. I'll gut it out. I'll cape it, and I'll do everything that I can. But it really all depends on how far away I am from camp. But I'll break that animal down first and then walk my way out.
Is that an average of a mile, 5 miles?
Again, it really all depends on the zone. I mean, in Alberta, we kind of got elk everywhere. So we've had elk in the plains. We've had elk in the Rockies. So on average, we'll say between a mile to 3 mile.
Yeah, because sometimes people have to get them out with horses because they're back in 5 miles, or they're going to piggyback and drop them off, go back in another load, and do that cycle.
Yeah, exactly. And when I sheep hunt, I'll pack hunt. So I'll go out there with horses and all that. So it's a little bit easier for me on that, because not only do I have to most of the time shoot cross range, I want to make sure that I'm over there on something a little bit more stable. So I'll pack hunt with that, but I won't do it with an elk. I'll go on foot for that.
So what about, do you hunt whitetails and mule deer?
I do, yeah.
Now, is that around your ranch, or is that just in different plations?
Yeah, so we got mule deer a lot around the ranch. We got really good whitetail deers in northern Alberta. Trophy whitetail deers up in North Alberta. So I'll a lot of times go up north, but we got some really good deer down in my area, down around the ranch. A lot of good transitions, and we got a lot of good waterways down here in Alberta. So especially in my neck of the woods, we got the Bow River, we got the Elbow River, Sheep River. We got a lot of good cover for a lot of these deers where we get a lot of real good transition and bed down points. So yeah, I'll do a lot of my deer hunting down and around here.
Now, if you're going to focus on some deer near the ranch, not going up towards the Peace River? Do you go up by the Peace River? Or
yeah, you can go up toward Peace, up around Grand Prairie. There's a lot of good things up around there, Mayerthorpe. So there's a lot of good deer and moose up in that area.
But that's a couple hundred miles from where you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easily. It's about a day drive.
Yeah. Let's go back to building your hit list. So you're going to hunt locally and you're going to target a couple of bucks. How do you do that?
So if I'm going to go after a couple bucks, I really want to make sure that I got all my ducks in a row, especially if I'm going for some good wall hangers as well as some good meat. I definitely want to look out for the big boomers. So in around the first to second week of June, I'll really start scouting and I'll really start seeing how the animal is really starting to look, right? What their sizes are looking like, what they're feeding on, what they're going to go again and tell me. From there, I'll definitely see if I could find a lot of scrape. I'll see if I can find any bed down zones. I'll see if I can find an abundance of does in the area, because where there's does, there'll be bucks. So I definitely try and go out there and kind of study the landscape. And I do that a lot. I kind of kill two birds with one stone. So a lot of the times I'll do that on my way into a fishing hole, or when I'm sitting there spinning or fly fishing. I try and go off grid as much as I can. I don't like to do a whole lot of urban fishing. So I'll try and just kind of disappear, and I'll just kind of watch and listen and hear if I, or see and hear if anything the wild is going to tell me. So all of us deer hunters or anybody that has gone out there knows that a twig breaking could either be that record buck that you were looking for. It could be some stupid squirrel that's going to scurry across the trees. So I definitely just kind of become one with the environment, see what they're telling me and see what the signs are. But I definitely really start scouting and preparing for the fall, starting here within the next week or two.
Now, for you, I know there's a lot of agricultural. So do you put in food plots as well as having the big fields?
Yeah, up at the ranch, we put down actually a feed plot. So we do a lot of grain, we do a lot of corn set out in there just for the specifics of bringing in deer. Now, for us, it's around the ranch, it's a lot of mule deer, but we got to be careful with our predation on that because we got a lot of cougars in the area too, ton of wolves, a lot of coyotes. So we kind of vary our food plot. So every second year, every third year, we'll put in a food plot just to kind of keep the deer coming back. It's not a routine thing because we have cattle out there. So the last thing we really want to do is pull in a lot more predators when we don't need to.
That's an interesting thing. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, that's where the family makes its money on that end. So we don't want to say goodbye to a lot of our blue chip bulls, or essentially it's a cattle farm. It's not a dairy farm. So we don't want to lose meat to a predator as opposed to meat that could be on your table or my table or anybody else's table.
Well, could put gas or diesel in the trucks too.
Absolutely. You got it. If I don't have something to fire up the old Dodge, I can't get to where I want to be. So absolutely.
So do you hunt off the ground when you're hunting whitetails?
If I'm bow hunting, I definitely go up into a blind. I find it's a lot easier. And that goes for almost anything, really. So whether it's whitetails, whether it's mule, even bear, a lot of the times I'll go up in a tree blind. I could do the spot and stalk, but it's not one of my fortes, we could say. So for me, I'll do ground blinds for any birds. I'll do a ground blind for the odd time. I'll do ground blind for sheep or elk or something along those lines. Pretty rare I'll do ground blind for any deer. A lot of the times I'll go up in, especially if I'm bow hunting, up in a tree stand. But if I'm pulling out my long guns, then for me, I'll range them in and I'll spot and stalk on that. But if I'm grabbing my bow, then yeah, I'll be up in it for sure.
Do you have ladder stands or hang-ons?
I have hang-on. I had the ladder stands, but for me, I just find the hang-on, just for me personally, I find that it worked for me and kind of my rigging when I get up there than something else. So,
what kind of broadheads do you shoot?
Actually, do I have them down here? I kind of vary on that, right? I'm not really a brand whore by any stretch. And again, it really all depends on what I'm shooting. So for this season, I ended up grabbing some Beeman carbon arrows, 400 grain. So for me, I'm really going to be looking forward to shooting these. Thinking I'm going to, with what I'm going out on, I think 120 on that. And I think I'm going to make it maybe a 520 grain arrow. But again, it's kind of up in the air. I kind of see what the environment is like, where I'm going to be shooting, where I get tags, because obviously the heavier the arrow, you got to factor that in. The lighter the arrow, you got to factor that in. So for me, it kind of all depends on where I'm going and what I'm shooting. And I'll just kind of fly by night. I'm kind of screwy in that regard. I'll do a whole ton of research up until kind of the week before, and then I kind of go, yeah, that looks like that might work, right? And go up there and give it a go. But I've been doing this for so long, it's just one of those I've been fortunate enough to kind of be able to pick a few of the go-tos. And it's the same thing with fishing. It's the same thing with anything. I'll do a whole bunch of research and get everything ready, and then I'll go out there and my plan going in might be completely different given on the conditions, or we might have a big snowfall or a windstorm where you got to shoot something a little bit heavier. So for me, I don't really make those decisions on what I'm shooting until I get out there.
How hard is it for residents to hunt Canada for deer?
For residents?
Yeah,
non-residents, yeah. So non-residents, as long as you're kind of with a resident, in Alberta specifically I'll talk to, as long as you're with a non-resident, you do have to submit a non-resident tag. And it has to be for like a 3-day, 1-day, or 7-day. So you can submit for that, but as long as you're with a resident, and it doesn't specifically have to be a guide, but as long as you're with somebody who is a local and who has tags as well as a hunter card. So in Alberta, for us to draw tags, there's a couple different things. So Alberta, we have to take a hunter education course, as well as we have to have a WIN card or a wildlife identification. And we need both of those to be able to submit for tags. So for non-residents, if they want to come up to Alberta, and I welcome anybody who's interested in coming up and hunting Alberta and seeing what it's all about. I know Cam Haynes right now is in northern Alberta doing a bear hunt. Him and Joe Rogan come down every single year, every spring, and they'll go up, same spot, they'll do bear hunts. So I definitely welcome anybody who wants to come up to Alberta and do a hunt to get in touch with me. And I'd be more than happy to help you out and guide you along. It doesn't have to be with me, but I could point you in the right directions to the right guides. But overall, as long as you're with somebody who is a resident, who has a WIN, and who has an AHIA hunter education card, you could submit for your tags as a non-resident.
Do you want to become a smarter whitetail hunter, knowing when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Over the past 4 years, people have asked me, hey, I'm struggling with spending all day in the woods and never seeing a deer, only getting opportunities at doe or young bucks, leaving the woods empty-handed too many seasons. Located the deer of a lifetime, but just flat out missed. Having difficulties finding a place to hunt, recognizing mistakes that you're making over and over again, and you want to eliminate them. Having tried and failed to find qualified mentors. Well, you've come to the right place. Why? Because Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created by me, Bruce Hutchin. It's a 13-module course that'll talk about being lost in the deer hunting forest, never hunted. What is a hunter? What is an adult onset hunter? What rules apply? Finding a mentor, choosing a weapon, finding a place to hunt, scouting a hunt location, stand sites, stand access and exit, reading sign, and when to hunt. All these are available for you at deerhuntinginstitute.com. Go now to deerhuntinginstitute.com and sign up for the best deer hunting course in America.
Do you have to do that before you get up there, or you can do that once you get there?
You can do it once you're out there. I would definitely recommend, though, just for the rigmarole, especially if you're coming in from the States where you're bringing in your bows or you're transporting a firearm or something like that. I would recommend getting it before. So if you do get stopped by Canadian border, you're able to show them and say, well, I am hunting in Alberta. These are the reasons why I have it, as opposed to just crossing the border without having those proof of identification of what you're doing out here.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So let's talk about weather temperatures in October, November, December.
All right. So in Alberta specifically, with us being about 30 minutes away from the Rocky Mountains from where I am, other locations, obviously, it's a little bit more. Alberta is a wonderful climate in the fact that we have a desert and badlands on one side with prairies, and then we have the Rocky Mountains that kind of sandwich it over on the other end. So it kind of does vary as to where you're at. But for myself specifically, where I am, October, it starts to get a little bit of the nip in the air. We start seeing temperatures dip around 32 Fahrenheit, so 0 in Celsius. We definitely start seeing the temperatures start to change. We don't see a whole lot of snowfall occur until about mid-December. Once January hits, that's where we get a lot of this. The difference in Alberta, though, is with us being the province beside British Columbia, we get a thing called Chinooks. And what that is it's the warm coastal winds coming off the coast of British Columbia starting to hit the cold winds of the Rocky Mountains and the frozen tundra that is Alberta. The cold winds actually makes way for a lot of the hot winds. So even in Alberta, it could be February, and we're still seeing temperatures and sun up in the 20 to 25 degrees Celsius mark. And it could be smack dab in the middle. So those temperatures usually last. We get probably about one a month where the pressure changes. all the snow melts, a lot of the green starts to come out, and the pressures change dramatically just because you are dealing with a hot front from the coast and then the cold front from the north. So Alberta's kind of a weird environment when it comes to that, but we're also extremely fortunate that we are able to have a lot of the boreal forest sort of up in our area. So we still get a lot of the green space. We still get a lot of animal activity just because the season and the snow doesn't start to fall until a little bit later.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. I know the Chinooks. Days going by when I used to ski, you'd run into that. All of a sudden it'd be winter, then the Chinooks would come in, and then it's like skiing in spring. And
you're out there in your shorts and flip-flops. It's just cruising down a mountain. It's weird.
It's just really strange, but I digress. But anyway, so we looked at physical fitness. Let's talk about the mental attitude just of hunting and what you really have to take on the mountains, because the mountains beat you down every day, physicality of it. Then you get the mental aspect of not seeing that elk. You know they're there, or you wouldn't be hunting there. So let's talk about that.
Hunting is, for a lot of us, it's therapeutic. So if you've listened to a lot of the shows that I've done with Bruce here in the past, you know my story. And if not, I recommend going back to whitetailrendezvous.com and checking my story as well as the stories of others. There's been a lot of really good stories about mental toughness. But my turn to digress. So hunting for us, a lot of it is therapeutic. It's a way to get back to our ancestry. It's a way to connect with nature. It's a way to fill our freezers. But the thing that a lot of us don't understand is you could be the greatest hunter, the greatest fisherman, the greatest scout, the greatest guide. You are going to get skunked. Without a doubt, you are going to have days where you do not see an animal, where you take a shot and you miss, where things just aren't clicking. The unfortunate thing with doing all your prep work, especially us as hunters, I mean, we're airing out our clothing a week or two before, get all the smell out of it and get it going in there, and all the money that we spend and all the research that we do and everything that we do to go out there, and to be eating tag soup at the end of it is incredibly disheartening. But the nice thing with hunting is it's not always the animal that you're going to be chasing. Hunting is a brotherhood. Hunting is a family. Whether you go out there hunting by yourself or your dad or a brother or a best friend, or you have a bunch of friends that all get together once a year, every year, same spot, and hit deer camp. Hunting is a sense of family. Hunting is a sense of camaraderie. It's not always going to be about the animal that you take. It's not always going to be about the new mount that you're going to have done. It's about the experience. And with every time that you miss, every time that you do not see an animal, that's an opportunity to learn from it and to grow. Sometimes you could be sitting in the same stand 3 days in a row. You could be checking your trail cams for the past 4 months. See animal, see animal, see animal, see animal. But when the day comes that you're out there, something might have spooked the animal. They might have picked up your scent. They might have done something to be spooked. There might be a predator in the area that has them all bedding down or hiding. You're not always going to win against the wild. And that's not just in the pursuit of meat. That's also in the pursuit of self. There's a lot of times that the mountains will whoop you. The prairies will beat you. The water, even if you're going fishing. I can't tell you the amount of times I've gone out there and I've been all excited. I've got a new rod and reel. I'm ready to go. You see all the advertisements and guaranteed to catch fish. You're guaranteed to, Pope and Young, new record holders, all this. It all comes down to the person. And I could go out there to the waters and I could throw bait after bait and lure after lure. Nothing hits. It doesn't mean that the animals aren't there. It just means I might be doing something wrong. I'm doing the wrong presentation. It's so much, but it's an opportunity to embrace the experience and chase the feeling of self-reliance, chase the camaraderie, chase the pride that comes with being a steward of the outdoors, and understanding that you're going to lose. And once you get past that, it's one of the most rewarding experiences of your life when you take that animal after loss. It's exhilarating. And I've seen hunters that have been hunting for 40, 50 plus years that not only get beat by an animal, but also still shed a tear and still get all giddy with their 100th plus animal as if it was their first. And they've been hunting for 50, 60 plus years, every single time, the same feeling of excitement. And I think we as hunters and we as outdoors people need to remember that feeling. And that is the passion that's going to keep us going out there, that excitement and that, feeling. And it's tough to explain unless you feel it. And Bruce, you could chime in on this one because I know you felt this one many, many times.
And I just love what you just said in the last 5 minutes because, folks, you do the preparation, research, and you get out there and mix it up and get your butt kicked. But that's just part of the hunting journey. And everything else that CJ just brought up, camaraderie, and I call it the journey. And CJ and I did a campfire. Go back and listen to that Whitetail Rendezvous podcast, and you're going to hear from Tom Opry. A lot of people know him. He runs the Extreme Hunters contest.
You got Jeremiah, Field the Plate.
Yeah, we had a lot of people. But having said that, why we hunt isn't just to put an animal on the wall. Yeah, I've killed a few deer, a few elk, a few everything else. But that was just part of the journey. I went there. That was the goal. That was the end game. That's why I traveled to these places. But in the end, it's the journey. And that's what the podcast, Whitetail Rendezvous podcast, has turned into. It's a journey. And CJ and I have developed a friendship because of that. And it's a beautiful thing. There's no question about it. The things we shared and the stories we shared. And I just thank the hundreds of thousands of people that have listened to the show and then hundreds of guests that have been on the show. So when we think about, okay, you get your hit list, you're in the season. Now, would you rather just take meat for the freezer or something for the wall?
For me, I'm a freezer filler. It's been something that I've kind of always done. If I have the opportunity to take a trophy, and I've submitted for trophies, absolutely. There's something about going out there and seeing this big boomer 8-pointer that is just mature and just saying, all right, I want the reminder of this hunt. I'll go for it. Absolutely. But for me, it doesn't always have to be this big bruiser wall hanger. I don't need to go after that. Or a big bull. Is it nice to have? For sure. Are those memories there? Absolutely. However, for me, and yes, you could still eat the trophy, but I'll do a lot of maybe the older ones that are not going to produce anymore, that are going to end up getting pushed out of the herd to begin with. For me, I will fill the freezers. And I do a lot of hunting. So for Alberta, a lot of the times I'll just put in a general tag that allows me to get 3 whitetail or 3 mule deer. And I'll just go out there, and if I fill the 3 tags, that's great. And I'll do a lot of donations for it. So I know in the 12 months afterwards from taking that animal, I'm not going to go through all of that, those 3 deers. Could I do it? Yeah. But to me, that's selfish. And I think hunting, like you kind of said there, Bruce, is not only the journey for yourself, but it's the journey for others. And whether that's introducing somebody to wild game, whether that's sharing your quarry with people that are less fortunate. So donating an animal to, say, a homeless shelter or food bank or something like that, and give it back to people that could use it. That's part of not only did I go out there and I had this great experience and I was able to feed myself and my family and maybe take somebody else out hunting, but I've been able to share in that success with people that might not be as fortunate or as experienced or had the same means to go out and do it themselves. So for me, I try and give back to not only nature through conservation efforts and doing instruction and doing shows like this in the campfire, because I know we got on conservation, a big part in that campfire series. And I try and give back to the wild as much as it's provided to me, but I try and provide to your community as well. And in that campfire, and I won't get into it in depth here, but hunting has a lot of the negative connotation. We see a lot of people say, you're a monster. What did that animal do to you? How would you like it if somebody came in and shot your family or something like that? And we're always going to experience that. But if we're able to, as hunters, show our communities that we are not the bloodlust, big bad wolves out there just shooting animals just for the sake of shooting animals, I think that'll go a long way for our sport. And I think that'll grow a long way for the next generation.
So what's in store for you this summer? Just working the ranch?
Yeah, so I got a lot of stuff kind of going on this summer. I had a welcoming experience where I was able to experience something brand new. And I can't really share too much about this, but I was away for a little while doing a little bit of adventure traveling. And for all your listeners, definitely stay tuned and welcome you to follow both of our pages, because I think both of us will be doing a little special on that one once I'm able to talk a little bit more about that. Was able to do a lot of that. I'm trying to get into a lot of these conservation schools that we have out here, do a lot of teaching. I'm trying to get out there and getting a lot of people ready for hunting season, taking some people out fishing a lot of the time this year, trying to get a wilderness school that I'm looking at kind of putting together. And that's still kind of in its infancy, but that'll go everything from plant identification to animal tracks to hunting to shooting to fishing to survival. So I'm trying to get that kind of in the works. So that's still a couple of years out. And yeah, just pretty much getting ready for upcoming fall. I'm excited about it this year. Like we touched on in the beginning, it's going to be a record year for animals out in the Rockies. And if you guys live outside of the Rocky Mountains, definitely reach out and see if you have the opportunity to get into one of our necks of the woods. And hopefully you guys have some good luck out there in that season. So a lot of it's just the medial day to day, but a lot of things on the go, doing a lot more writing and everything too. So just keeping as busy as I can, my friend.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show tonight. Before we go, can I take a moment and say thank you? Listen, as we started the Whitetail Rendezvous podcast journey, we had no idea what to expect. But after 4 years, we received a ton of feedback from our over 400,000 listeners and climbing to 500,000. Speaking of which, we are now closing in on over 600 featured guests. Thank you. And a quick shout out to all those who have left an iTunes review and your feedback. I get those and really appreciate it. And it's awesome to see what you have to say, and we do read every single one of them. And I just want you to know that I am incredibly grateful for your kind words regarding the show. And all of the ratings and reviews help us attract more listeners. And if you're one of those new listeners, welcome. Great to have you. By the way, if you haven't taken the time to rate and review our show and like the Hunting on Private Land strategy on how to get permission to hunt a private property, go to whitetailrendezvous.com as a special gift for just rating and reviewing our show. When you get there, look for the start button to get the details. Listen, I'll share you the top technique from some of the top hunters in the country on how do they get permission to hunt on private land. I'll share with you the exact techniques they use to get permission. As my way of saying thanks for rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. So join us next time. And remember, we're all on this journey together, learning, sharing, and becoming 365 hunters.
Well, CJ, it's always a pleasure. And folks, I just have to say this again. Ever wanted to make a trip out west, get a over-the-counter tag, check the states that you still can apply. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I know Nevada just had their draw. I'm waiting to find if I get my moose tag and my elk tag and my deer tag and my antelope tag. I haven't got notified yet, and I haven't seen money come out of my account. So it doesn't look good for me. But needless to say, Colorado does have over-the-counter tags. Arizona, in January, you can go hunt mule deer during the rut in Arizona with an over-the-counter tag, and I'll be heading there in January. And I'm targeting large deer because 160, 170 deer last year will be pushing 180, 190, and 200. So
yeah, absolutely.
This is the year to do it. And everybody else in the outdoor world is talking about it, and you can't go on a social media page without somebody saying, hey, look what the bulls are already doing, develop it. I was just 5 miles from my house on the east side of I-25, which is east of the Rockies, and there was a rather substantial bull, and I could see his horns from 300 yards away, 400 yards away. I mean, already grown. It's going to be an incredible season. So with that, I'll end this session of Whitetail Rondo. CJ, it's always a pleasure, my friend. And
always.
We'll catch up and do our announcement for sure, for sure.
Absolutely, my friend. Thanks again for having me. And I just kind of want to touch on, I'm planning on doing a canoe trip in Wyoming beginning of August. So if any of your listeners are out there and you guys want to meet up, or Bruce or yourself, I'll be down in Wyoming for probably about 4 or 5 days beginning of August. So shoot me a message. Or I haven't quite decided that part quite yet, but I think I'm going to pack out canoe trips. So I'm trying to get a couple buddies out there to do a 4-day canoe with me. But if you're interested, shoot me a message.
I got a hold of my friend Cody Ewan in Alta, Wyoming.
Okay.
Go on Instagram, Cody Ewing, and just tell him you're a buddy of mine.
Absolutely. I will do that for sure.
Yeah, I won't do canoe trips, but I'll do raft trips.
Yep. Yeah, we're looking at doing one of those. We're thinking in October as well. So if that's the case, I'll let you know there, Bruce, and if we do a bit of a whitetail rendezvous meetup down there. And
that would be good.
Yeah, what we can do.
All right. Talk to you soon, bro.
You bet, my man. Bye now.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.